Allow me to proceed with the presentation. I realize that we might not even have adequate time. This is the context, these are the contents of my presentations. The first is the context, the key consideration, the election supply chain, what should we expect with respect to legislative amendments ahead of 2016 election, voter participation data, general information, and the challenges and the conclusion. I think within this context, we have an understanding that our Constitution provides that we have two different systems that we use at a local level, different from national and provincial level. We have the proportional as well as the ward representation. And of course, when we run municipal elections, as the Electoral Commission, we're faced with a challenge that we need to offer a different ballot for each ward, because no two wards would be contested by the same candidates. And of course, we also have single PR ballot for a municipality, as well as district directly elected district councillor. For 2011 municipal election, we had, as Limpopo province, 573 unique elections, 543 different ward elections, 25 local councils where we were electing from the PR list, and 5 directly elected district councillors, compared with 2 unique elections in NPE 2014, which means the national and the provincial ballot. So in this case, a voter will be given 3 ballot papers. And of course, there is a huge difference between what we are doing for local government elections. You will remember that last year, voters were allowed to vote anyway. Even if you were outside Limpopo, you would qualify for a national ballot. If you were in Limpopo, you live in Polokwane, you happen to be in Zanen, you would also receive the provincial and the national ballot. For municipal elections, it's not possible, because these are constituency elections. You have to vote in a constituency where you are registered and where you are ordinarily residents. Of course, what are the key considerations for 2016? The election day for LGE 2011 was on the 18th of May, and the 5-year term runs from that date of the election. So according to the provisions of the Constitution, the IEC must then run elections within 90 days of the expiry of the 5-year term. So that 5-year term is expiring on the 18th of May. So the earliest date that we can run elections as the Electoral Commission is the 18th of May, and the latest date is the 16th of August 2016. And of course, it's the Minister of COCTA who has the powers and the responsibility to call those municipal elections. Now, what should we expect in terms of new changes as we approach municipal election? The Municipal Electoral Act has been amended, and the first amendment relates to candidate nomination. I think whereas in the past people arrived in our offices with piles and piles of papers, this time we are going electronic. We allow that parties can submit their candidate nominations electronically. And of course, to avoid fraud, only key people from different parties will be given a key. There is a secret code that you will use to submit the names of candidates. Otherwise, it would really cause chaos, because if access is given to everybody, people are not honest. And of course, in the past, you needed to present a bank guaranteed checks. I think last year we learned a lesson. We wanted parties to submit a check of 600,000 to contest national and all 9 provinces, and the banks are saying this is no longer possible. So we are going to allow for electronic payment of an election deposit. And then we also have, although we have done away with floor crossing, there are still candidates who are not sure whether they want to contest for Party A or Party B. So the person has the foot in one party and another foot in another party. So in this case, we're going to make provisions that we notify both political parties that you have a candidate who's in Party A and who's also a candidate in Party B. And of course, that person would then have to choose which party they would want to stand with. And also to clarify circumstances in which new ballot paper might be issued to voters, because in some cases, some voters who cannot read or write are shy to tell the presiding officer that they cannot read or write. So really, we want to clarify that as well, because party agents normally give us problems when we want to give that particular voter a new ballot paper. And of course, to also clarify issues relating to the declaration of by-election results. And these are just the provisions around the amendment of the Municipal Structures Act. The competence of the Structures Act lies with the Ministry of COGTA. It's not our competency. However, there are provisions within the Structures Act that affect the Electoral Commission, like calling elections, like submission of party lists. So really, within the Department of COGTA, those discussions are happening with respect to those amendments. And of course, really there would be automatic disqualification. If you are an independent candidate, we require you to provide us with signatures of registered voters. The only way to get registered voters is to approach the commission and request them to give you the voters roll so that you get people who are registered. If you do not have sufficient signatures, we disqualify you. And of course, if you do not pay a deposit, then you are disqualified. Of course, also, if your funds are not cleared, then there is a problem. Invalid registration status, because you have to be a registered voter and a South African. Sometimes people take a chance. In 2011, a foreign national took a chance in Thulamela municipality. Fortunately, we spotted them before they could really appear on our ballot paper. And we are linked to the Department of Home Affairs. So if you are not born in South Africa, you cannot contest elections. So you cannot really take a chance. Now, this is how elections are conducted. These are the projects that we run until the day we run elections. So there are several of these projects as outlined on the screen: the voting district delimitation, staff recruitment, outreach, voter registration, candidate nomination, voting day. Then we count the vote and we announce the election results. And I can tell you, we do not just wake up and run election. These processes take up to 2 years. All these 8 steps take up to 2 years to actually complete, as you will see. Delimitation timelines, which is the first project. This time, because the Minister of COGTA approached the MDB to change the boundaries of some municipalities, as Limpopo were also affected, we now have a two-phased approach to, in fact, a three-phased approach to the MDB process. So on our side with delimitation, the first phase was just to visit municipality to see, how that municipality has grown. The second phase, which is linked to the MDB, was meant to start in September, and there are delays, of course, and end in December 2015. So this second phase is now divided into 3 phases. The first part was the end of August, where MDB delivered batch 1 municipalities. These are municipalities in Limpopo that are not affected at all by amalgamation or any other issue that the minister might have raised with the MDB. The second batch are municipalities that were originally affected and they are no longer affected. And the third batch are municipalities that are affected. Out of all these three phases and those timelines from MDB, they have not met the end of September. We have not yet received the second batch. These are municipalities that were affected, like Bomaruleng, and are no longer affected. And end of November, we are expected to receive the third batch. It is impossible for MDB to deliver on those. And I've already, described what these batch one municipalities are. These are the municipalities in Limpopo that fall under batch one. And those are the only 9 municipalities that were never affected at all by the minister's decision to reduce or change the boundaries of some municipalities. And of course, this table just summarizes after the MDB had looked at the wards of this municipality and after the MEC had proclaimed the number of councillors and effectively the number of wards, we found that some of the wards have been changed. Varied means the wards have been changed. So in Giyani, it's only 2 wards. In Letaba, is 3. The biggest change was in Mogalakwena municipality. 20 wards in Mogalakwena were changed by the demarcation board. So this change means that around December, we're going to have a targeted registration. We're going to visit these people and tell them that your ward has changed. Whereas you were voting at this station, your station has changed, you are going to vote elsewhere. So we are now working with these municipalities to try and correct those. Now, batch 2 municipalities, I've described them, they were originally affected by the MDB, by the minister's decision, and they are no longer affected. They originally were expected to receive information from MDB at the end of September. Now they are promising us that this information will only be available at the end of October. In other words, we have lost 1 month in relation to batch 2 municipalities. And the following table summarizes the status of these municipalities that were originally affected and are no longer affected as per Circular 18. So the demarcation board is proposing that for Greater Zanen, the minimum size of a ward would have 4,347 voters and the maximum is 5,881. So in Limpopo, these batch 2 municipalities are only 4 because Maruleng was one of the municipalities that was going to amalgamate with Zanen and Palaburwa, and eventually a decision was taken that Maruleng will stay. Makudu Tamaga was affected because it was going to share the Fetahomu municipality with Tubatse, and now Makudu Tamaga is getting nothing from Fetahomu. The whole of Fetahomu is now amalgamating with Tubatse municipality. Now, the batch 3 municipalities are really those municipalities that are affected, and I'm sure most of you are aware of those municipalities. These municipalities really affect the whole of the Vemba district. Capricorn is affected with the exception of the Belle and Gumbi. In Waterberg is Mudimule and Mohopong, and in Skukune is Tubatse and Fetahom. I think the most important point to raise about this is that there are court cases. The Democratic Alliance has gone to court to oppose all proposals that the minister made to the MDB, and the timing is so late. This case will only be heard on the 27th of October. So they are not only opposing in Limpopo, but in all other provinces where the minister approached the MDB to change the boundaries of municipality. Now, in Vembe, there are traditional leaders that have also approached the courts. Their hearing is on the 24th of November. So I think you can see from all this that, the ability to run elections at the earliest date is actually diminishing, depending on what the courts are going to say at the end of October as well as the end of November. Now, these are the municipalities that fall under batch 3. I think you will remember that Polokwane, Agana municipality is shared between Polokwane, Blowback, and Molemole. The MEC has released the number of councillors, after that proposal from the minister. So Polokwane, whereas in 2011 had 78 councillors, as we go to 2016, Polokwane will have 90. Blowback will grow by 4 councillors. Molemole from 27 to 32. Musina is the biggest gainer of all this, because they've grown by 100%. Congratulations! Hey, Musina is now big. I hope the mayor is here. You are now big, sir, or ma'am. Makado is the loser of all these processes because they are losing 1 councillor. And the new municipality, which is in the area of Malamulele and Vuani, will have 71 councillors. And Mohopong and Mudimule, the MEC decided to just add the numbers and create 28 councillors. And Fetahome and Tubaze, Fetahome had 25, and Tubaze had 65, and now that is the... And then Chulamela will stay as it is at 81 councillors. Now, this is just to give you information about what really happened in previous elections, starting with 2000 until as we approach 2016 elections. And I must say that the MDB is working on the 2014 certified voters roll. So in 2014 elections, the certified voters roll for Limpopo was 2.4 million voters. So as it stands now, the PR councillors are growing. We started with 611, and for 2016, this PR include the indirectly elected councillors for the district municipalities is 815, and the wards have also grown from 445 in 2000 to 561. So next year's councillors in total will have 1,376. Those of you that want to monitor what we are doing in terms of recruitment of staff, those are the figures. We even employ young people. Really, we try to balance between the young and the older generation. So those are the people that we have appointed to work during the registration weekend. Right, and then our outreach focus is around ensuring that communities appreciate democracy and they also participate. And our message is around, please ensure that, because normally statistics show that the voter turnout for local government is lower, I think you'll see later, than the national election. So we want to encourage people to say, please participate and really, go against this notion that municipal elections don't attract a lot of people. Participate rather than go on service delivery protest, because what councillors call what committees and people don't really participate. And these are just the message, our outreach messages that we normally communicate out there. Right, this slide is just to compare, the figures around registration of voters, how our voters roll has grown over a number of years for local government election. This slide is just a summary of voter participation by age group for the LGE 2011. And I must say our voter turnout as Limpopo was a little bit low in 2011 because we only had a return of 43.7%. And of course, during that year, the young people were just not glued up. You can see between the ages of 20 and 39, young people were just not into participation and voting when elections were were actually called. This is just the results of last year in terms of age group, and you can see from the previous slide that participation in 2014 improved dramatically, because these people that we were complaining about last year, they made a statement, because the 20 to 29, the participation was 54%. Even more attractive is the young people who were voting for the first time, 18 to 19. But the disappointing factor is that Stats SA says in Limpopo we need to have 235,000 of the 18 to 19, and currently we have only attracted 61,000, only 26%. So our message is targeted at these young people. Some of them are first year at university, some of them are actually still at high school completing matric. So we are targeting, if you could assist us to spread this message around these young people who are not on the voters' roll. This is just a summary of the election milestones. We are planning to have 2 registration weekends to boost our registration figures like in previous elections, and I hope we'll succeed. Then this is just to give you an idea that how many people we attract when we call elections. I think you can see here in Limpopo that over a number of years we've attracted a lot of political parties. We started with 11 parties in 2000, and in 2011 we had 21 parties that really showed interest to contest the election, and very few of them made it to govern municipalities, of which 7 of these in 2011 were newly registered. And the party lists that were submitted for year 2011 from political parties, we had those figures 3032. I think the most striking is the independent candidate. This is not national, this is Limpopo. Our figure for 2011 was even higher than the national average, because in Limpopo we attracted 172 independent candidates, whereas the national average, I think, was around 65. So I think there is something that is happening within, most of these people, by the way, belonged to political parties. They were not just people who did not know what was happening. I think around candidate nomination, if parties could really make sure that people who think they are qualified to become councillors are actually nominated during candidate. Right, these are the new parties that we have registered here in Limpopo. We have the independent body of communities that intends to contest elections in Mopani district mainly. We have Lepele Nkumbi party, we have Malamulele party, we have Mogalakwena Residents Association, we even have a party in Musina and the Mokopong party. So so far we have registered these ones, and I'm sure the numbers would increase as elections are announced. I think those of you who are interested in how much deposit you will be expected to pay, those are the figures that the IEC charge for contesting elections. This slide just summarizes, the party support, and I think the purpose of this slide is just to show you that some parties started quite well, and as the year went by, they continue to lose support. In particular, one of these parties that is actually losing support is, I think, for example, Azapo, really, which started with 11 seats in 2000. Now they are standing at only 8 seats in 2011. And so too is PAC, which started with 21 seats in the year 2000 and now is standing at only 15 seats. So really, if you want to compare how your party is doing, this slide should really provide you with that kind of guidance. This is the slide that we used immediately after 2014 election, just to show you how, on average, each district performed. Our target was to get 80% voter registration, and 2 districts were unable to reach that 80% target, and these were Capricorn and Waterberg district. And I think this slide would be clearer in your packs with respect to participation, and it also compares what happened in 2011 with what happened in 2006. I think the most important point to check is just to check on the extreme right, the voter turnout in 2006. I think the Readiness shows those municipalities that contributed to the below 50% voter turnout. Almost all municipalities, with the exception of Modale and Marule municipalities, made us, to drop with respect to voter participation in 2006. Now, in 2011, we also still see some red municipalities, and these are Zanen, which had 49.9%, Tulamela 47.3%, Makado 48.7%, Aranang, which normally has a higher registration but participation is poor, at 49.6%, Polokwane 48%, Lepele-Nkumbi, Chabazimbi, Ephraim Morale, and Makudi Tamara, and the last one is Greater Tubas. And I hope these municipalities would actually improve as time goes on. This is the slide I was talking about, where we compare participation between municipal elections and national and provincial elections. The figures are just not comparable. In 2000, 42%, 2004, 76% when national elections were called. 2006 municipal election, 45%, 2009, 65%, and 2011, 50%, and 2014, 63.3%. I think let's break this chain. Let's have 65, 70% participation in 2016. This is ICASA is a body that gives us airtime as political parties during elections. They regulate how much airtime should be given by public radio stations as well as the television. So the hearings are going to be conducted in Limpopo, in Tulamela on the 27th of October, in Zanen on the 28th, and in Polokwane. Please participate, particularly if you would like to know how much airtime your party would actually get during the campaign. This is just really the kind of challenges that we are dealing with. I can see that I've run out of time, and some of the challenges that we would have as we approach the elections. And I'm sure all of us would agree that the biggest threat to elections is this matter of demarcation, as well as political parties that intend to take us to court because we are employing teachers as presiding officers. And of course, there are already tensions in some political parties. The recent one is the PAC, which had to be resolved in a court of law. And of course, the message that we preach is that SALGA must really, I think this time, we request SALGA to pass a resolution around how they are going to support our election program. And we request municipalities to release our MEO so that they perform their role. We are really now stressed out, and some municipalities are just not releasing the MEOs to perform their functions. So on that note, I sincerely wish to thank you very much for listening.